Grow Great is a city government leadership podcast with Lisa Norris and me, Randy Cantrell. Each week we share insights, experiences, and wisdom to help you and your leadership grow great. Our website is growgreat.com. So I buy this hat the other day. I used to wear baseball hats a lot. I don't much anymore, but I bought this one.
You wear beanies.
Yeah, well, I absolutely wear beanies. So, as you can tell, you can see that it's focused, but it looks out of focus. And I bought this because in recent weeks, it is the theme, and I've said this before on the show. It's just there's a theme that bubbles to the surface, and I feel like I'm looking for it, but I've worked really hard not to, and it just continues to bubble up with me hearing of people complaining about their own focus, complaining about team members that they can't keep focused, and it's especially, well, it's timely today because Lisa and I missed a podcast episode, so we do some of these recordings in advance, obviously, and prepare for these. And we thought we had today's show covered, and I realized
when we went to release it.
Yeah, realized I dropped the ball. So I'm sitting here like, okay, physician, heal thyself, kind of a thing. So I bought this baseball cap to remind myself and to remind people that I'm with. I'm going to sum it up, Lisa, with be present. Be present. Also on my mind, and part of recent conversations have been how much time we're spending with our digital devices. And I'm not anti this, and I'm not anti social media. It's all great and wonderful. But I was watching a Simon Sinek. It was a presentation that he gave, and it was really, really short. It was part of a conversation he was having. He's like, if you get up in the morning and you don't tell your loved one good morning or that you love them or whatever, and the first thing you reach for is your phone, you got a problem. Mm-hmm. All of this I would sum up in one phrase, and that is to be present. And the difficulty that we are all having to just be present in this moment, be focused on this thing right in front of us, this person in front of us, this conversation in front of us, this task in front of us. I don't know. Where does your head go when I bring up that word, be present?
Well, focus and be present to me is very similar. You know, in the challenge, I would go, my head went to the challenges, because I think as leaders, we're always focused on what we need to get, it's the tasks. And as managers, it's what do I need to get done today? When you talk about focus, that I would think, because that's the first place my head went to, is what do I need to get done today? What's on my task list? What conversations do I need to have? It's kind of navigating your day and making sure you stay on track. But really, focus is much bigger than that. When you're talking about being present, it's being in the moment. And I've heard so many times, especially, people take up the most amount of our time. It's not the tasks themselves, it's the issues with the people. And those are also the hardest and most troubling to navigate often. I mean, they just present, and I've had this happen to me where I think I've had a really great conversation with somebody, and then weeks later I found out it was completely received completely differently. And I'm getting, you get asked weeks later how something went. I'm like, well, I thought it was really good. And they're like, no, it didn't go well. I'm like, what? And so you're talking about, so that's the risk of being in the moment. Your heart's in the right place. You're trying to do the right thing. You're trying to give wisdom and share wisdom, share insight, respond to questions asked, but focusing on the moment. And I don't know how you change that. I always try it when it comes to people. And that's my area of being present and focused. When a person has a concern, kind of for me, everything else drops, because it's the people we're trying, focus on others. That's what our definition of leadership is. When you talk about focus, I try to kind of drop everything and let me listen to what their concerns are. Because if they came to me, you don't want to say, I'm sorry, can you come back next week would be better?
Right.
or we've talked about it before, Randy, a crying person at the counter,
Hmm.
an upset peer, an upset leader that you're managing. I mean, it just can go depending on your role. You don't have to be a leader. It can be a peer, it can be family, it can be whatever. My job, I feel, is to focus on what their need is right now. The challenge that comes out of that is when you're trying to help and it's received differently, it can present a lot of challenges. Therein lies humans, right? How it's
Yeah, but
given,
I
how
don't
it's
know that
taken.
I don't know I don't know that that's completely a result of a lack of being present, because we all know. Listen, in city government, the one of the biggest challenges, and I discovered this day one, is it is a meeting intensive culture everywhere. It's just meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and to be present. So if you've got a 15-minute meeting, followed by another 15-minute meeting, followed by another 15-minute meeting, followed by a little bit of a break, and then it's just meeting stacked upon meeting,
Right,
and to be present in that moment, especially if there's some big looming thing
right.
that's got you preoccupied, that happens, and that's going to happen.
Mhm.
And I think probably it's best for people to, if they can, especially if it's direct reports, if they can be in on the joke,
Mhm.
it's not a joke, but if they can be in on it, that I've got this looming thing over here,
Right,
then not to excuse it, but at least it gives it context. Because here's what happens, I think, with some of the stuff that you're kind of describing is people think it's them. It ain't them.
yeah,
I mean, you and I both have had meetings with direct reports, and my mind is somewhere else. I'm trying desperately to be here in the moment, but there's this preoccupation. I learned one of the first things to do, if I could show my hand, to let them know I'm distracted. It's not you, it's me. And sometimes they want to postpone,
right,
and sometimes they can't postpone. And the smartest ones will say, listen, I just need one thing from you, and here's what I need. Okay, now I can get my head wrapped around that. I can get focused on that. I can step away from my preoccupation, because now I know they've got some specific thing they need me for, and I can get all in on that. Now, that's me, but that's also the reason I do it. I do it to try to serve them and to try to serve myself and try to help us. Okay, I can focus for a really short period of time here, even given my preoccupation. But I think so many times we don't do that. I do understand there are times that we can't do that. But I do think that there are things that we can say to let the other person know it's not you.
well, and you
I've
have
got
to,
something over here I'm dealing with. It's not going to impact you. It's not something that's above our ability to handle, but just know this. I'm a little bit preoccupied. So if you could help me, then I can help you.
yeah, it's so much about when you talk about being present, your brain has to shift gears so many times to get focused on what is the issue I'm here for today, like in this moment,
That's right.
and then trying to navigate it well enough, um, because you have such limited time to focus on each issue. It's important to listen to what they're saying and contribute. One of the things when you talk about focus and trying to get, okay, I went from that meeting, which I've got 5 things to do that I just came
Mhm.
out of, and remembering to do those things, focus. Then I got to go to this meeting and shift the gears and understand perspective. And typically, what's been hardest that I found, as the further you go up in roles, there's more reliance upon, uh, not you as in the job itself. There's more reliance on the wisdom and the sharing and the, asking good questions and trying to make sure everything's moving in the correct direction. And
Well, the
people are
sheer
relying
volume,
upon you.
the sheer volume increases,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
not just you doing it.
yeah.
In my case now, I'm looking at, I've got, I think 5 direct reports now, and you're looking at all the scope that they have and all the different issues. It's just different. I'm not saying it's better or worse than when I was a director of a department. It's just different. It's just a different
Well,
presence.
it's a much broader focus. It
Right.
may not be as deep, but the breadth of it can be overwhelming because
Well,
it's like the playing field is just so stinking huge.
and
When
the
I had this one
reliance.
lane as a director, I had this lane that I kind of stayed in, and even though the HR lane is really broad and covers an
Of
awful lot of
course.
turf, it's still not the same as being in city management.
And it's interesting because it doesn't again the role doesn't really matter. It's the reliance upon your what knowledge you have to share, and you're flying at 30,000 feet, sometimes at 50,000 feet, sometimes
That's
the
right.
directors are at the 30,000 feet, so you have to ask better questions, and trying to get enough knowledge and understanding so that you can provide direction. You aren't the doer anymore. You're trying to provide direction based on the facts given to you. And that navigating that becomes challenging at times because you don't want to overstep, but you're trying to share what's given to you in the moment and then help them navigate it moving forward. And you're not there to see how it's navigated moving forward or not. So you don't know if
Right.
it went well, poorly, unless they
Yeah.
happen to tell you. But you got to focus on what the issue is at hand and at least be present and try to, I call it a shutdown. You try to shut down the last meeting you came from for a minute, focus on what you need to do here because they invited you for a reason. And I
That's
always
right.
used to tell staff that if you're invited to the meeting, contribute. Don't sit there and say nothing, unless that's justified for the topic,
Sure.
right? Sometimes
Right.
there are moments you need to sit quietly.
That's right.
But most of the time, I would tell staff if I've invited you, you have something that can help the group for which you're participating.
Yeah.
So contribute, share your thoughts, share your wisdom.
Well, here's some things that have helped me, and we'll kind of put a bow on this that have worked for me. May not work for you, may not work for everybody, but have worked for me. Number one is that honesty. So, meeting after meeting after meeting, got a distraction. Focus is challenging. Focus normally is not challenging for me. Being present normally is not real challenging for me. So, that's a bias right up front that seems to serve favorably for me.
Mhm.
So if I'm in a meeting, somebody needs something from me, I'm just going to go ahead right up front and tell them about the distraction. Be as honest as I can, share as much as I can just to give them context that if I don't appear like I'm on my game, here's why.
Mhm.
Because I don't want them leaving my presence feeling like they're in trouble, they did something, whatever. That, as I said, helps them get me on point. And if they don't do that, then I'm going to lead the way and say, if for this meeting, if you can just kind of cut to the chase and tell me what I can be all in. I can go pot committed to the thing that we need to solve together, that we need to collaborate together. And 100% of the time they will do that.
Right. They
And
just need to know the ask
yeah,
in that moment.
Yeah, and I'm able to get to the point. I will also tell them extraneous details right now don't need extraneous details. You need to just kick to the curb all the I would tell anybody kick the extraneous details to the curb anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Give the boss, give your leader, and you yourself as a leader, give yourself the right to ask the question if you need to. Too many times people come in and they just want to blather on about all of the context. If we want that, we will ask for it. If you as a leader, if you want that, you have the right and the power to ask for it. Ask for it. But I don't want somebody imposing on me, and so I'm going to want to train my people. Don't do that to me and don't do that to each other. Let's all respect each other so we can ask questions to get more details if we want them, and if we don't, no harm, no foul. And those are things that have helped me kind of keep, when we're talking about meetings and focus on meetings, and it transcends to activities and achievement and performance,
Mm-hmm.
to keep it on track. Let's keep it on track and let's move this thing down the track as quickly as we can, because right now in this moment, speed is of the essence. It's not always of the essence. We're
Right.
talking about a specific context here where we got meeting stacked upon meeting and we're challenged with just being present.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. The challenge when you're trying to focus is full transparency. I've found it also effective, Randy, from what you've said, to say, listen, and it's happened in this role and in HR when I was there. Um, I've got I had a meeting yesterday and somebody needed to talk to me. I said, listen, if you can, I've got 8 minutes till my next meeting and I'm booked the rest of the day. If you feel like we can cover it in 8 minutes and I can get you what you need, but we need to be efficient. And they're like calling right now. And so they called me and they went through it and I said, okay, a couple questions. And I asked the questions. They answered the questions. And I said, what have you tried so far? Because I don't want to take away where it's me just because that's my natural mode is to go, okay, here's what we need to do. Right.
Right.
But I've got to change that role in the position I'm in now. And so in that, I said, okay, what have you tried now? And then they gave it to me. And I said, I think that's a good plan. Think about timing. Why don't we put it in a grid so it's easy when we're transferring that knowledge to we're going to meet with Cheryl, Bill, whoever it is. And they just want brief, like a brief plan. So you've addressed all the items. I think it's a great plan. Does that get you what you need? Yes. Okay. And we move on down the road. But they're aware you're distracted, first of all, just because you've got another meeting coming up, right?
Yeah.
So they know that's on your mind. So let's get to the point quickly and let me help you get what you need. And still focus on them for that moment, but you can only focus so much in 8 minutes, right? So
well,
it's just getting to the point and listening.
Welcome to the world of hard stops. We're in this world of hard stops.
Yes.
And we're all in it. It is especially true for those of us in city government. And so I get it. So, all right, parting shots. I would put the hat on, but I got headphones on. So if you're listening to the podcast, this is a maroon baseball cap, kind of maroonish, and it's got focus on the front of it, and it's out of focus.
Yes, I would say disclose. Tell them if you're having a rough time, if you have limited time, tell them. I would just tell that individual, listen, this is where I'm at right now. This is what I've got. And then as they're talking to you, try to get to the point efficiently, give them what they need, and then try to make sure, did I get you what you need right now? If not, let's huddle up later in the day. But try to make sure you've at least gotten what they need and fulfilled the need. That's the biggest thing to me.
Yeah, my parting shot is show them the way. So demonstrate to them, display to them the way that you want it to be handled, and lead well.
Thanks for watching and listening to Grow Great, the City Government Leadership Podcast. For Lisa Norris, I'm Randy Cantrell. Be well, do good, grow great. The website is growgreat.com.